Thank you for tuning in to Bethel Baptist Church Sunday School, virtual Sunday School on Lesson 7. Today we'll be getting to Lest We Forget, which is the title. We pray that we thank you that you tuned in with us. We know that you could have found something else to do with your time, but because this is a vital part of our learning in the Word of God, we thank you for tuning in with us today. So without further ado, we pray that at the end of this lesson, that you'll be able to recognize and emphasize what others in need and offer Christian love and assistance when and if you can. If you revert back inside the lesson, there's a story. And I'm going to paraphrase the story so in your own time, hopefully by now you've had the opportunity to read into the story. But it talks about a man named Gerald. Gerald is feeling some type of way about what he sees that's going on around him in the community in which he resides in. And there's some things that cause Gerald to flash back on some things, and there's some things that are occurring in present time that he sees that's going on, and it kind of he feels some type of way about what he sees. To a certain degree, he can even relate to those people of the things that's going on around him. What he sees a lot of immigrants that have come over into America and they're looking for jobs. And those that can't find jobs, they're still struggling, trying to find a way to make a better life for their family. And Gerald thinks that there should be something that can be done for those that are seeking work. So he looks around and he even reflects back on his own experience being in school and thinks his grandfather even mentioned to him. And so he's taking it upon himself, and he's wondering if something that can be done to help those that are in need. Someone should step up and help those out that are not in a position to help themselves. So when we're looking into this lesson text, it's focusing on the book of Nehemiah, being chapter 2, and we're going to focus on verses 11 through 20. And we learn about Nehemiah where he's a cupbearer, which is a palace official, and he served wine at the king's table. This was considered a position of influence. It was a position of trust. The king wouldn't want to trust anyone just to pour him a drink. Nehemiah would pour the drink. He would test the drink out for the king so the king would know that it was safe. So there was a position of trust. And it also allowed him access to the king, Artaxerxes the first of Persia. It gave him an opportunity to be in the king's presence and have access to the king, which allowed Nehemiah to also be a spokesperson, if you will, on behalf of the people. So he was also a man of empathy and prayer. He was a God fearing man. He didn't take lightly to anything that God asked him to do, or if anything, he prayed and he was steadfast and he didn't waver in his faith with God. He stayed focused on whatever God told him to do. He would dive in head first into whatever God asked him to do. So he was the type of man that loved God. He would serve the Lord in any capacity in which he could. And as we go on further into the story, we see that uh, not only is he's a cupbearer and he's a trusted official, he's next to the king. He's living in a place where he's comfortable. He lives in a place of comfort. There's really not many needs that Nehemiah has and wants, but he's in a place that few people even have the opportunity to be in, if you will. So on one particular day, as Nehemiah's in the palace and living in comfort, he has some visitors from his homeland of Jerusalem. And as they're having a talk and they're conversing over things he's asking what's going on back in Jerusalem, and the report that he gets is not that great. To him, it's disappointing that the report that he's given is that the wall that was built prior to before it was destroyed is still destroyed. There's debris everywhere, and no one is doing anything about it. And they're even susceptible to attacks from the enemy. They don't. They're not. It's really that safe. With the wall being torn down, anybody can come in and it could attack them and it could take over their land. And Nehemiah is feeling some type of way about this because he's disappointed and hurt to find out that his homeland is still in ruins and no one has done anything about it. So Nehemiah uh, prays about it. He talks to God about it. He fasts and he prayed and he fasted and he prayed. And it bothered him that no one was doing anything. Someone should do something to help these people. So as he's praying about it, he's going about his day. And then the king sees him and asks him, what's going on? So you know how sometimes when there's something going on with you and your face shows it before your mouth can say it? Well, I'm pretty sure this was what Nehemiah was facing. So the king asked him what was going on, and he reluctantly told the king what the problem was. He was telling him about his homeland and how it was still in ruins, and no one was doing anything to help out to fix the problem. And Nehemiah fasted, he fasted, he prayed, and then he asked the king for his permission to leave the lap of luxury, to leave his comfort zone, to go back home and do what he could to take care of the land. And the king agreed and said that it was okay for him to go. Now, think about this for a moment. Have you ever been in the comfort of your own home and you've been asked to go out and help somebody else, somebody that was less fortunate? You're in the comfort, you're cozy, and you have to leave your comfort and go to an uncomfortable place. Have you ever been asked to leave your home and go down to the Salvation Army, or go into the BEC and help serve food, or go out to the community and evangelize, or go out to the community and serve those less fortunate? It's probably, you probably feel some type of way about it. But if you were attached to God as we should be, then this would be just second nature to you. You wouldn't have a second thought. You would just go out and do those things because some people are not as fortunate. And when we're in a fortunate position, we should go out and help those that are in need. So the king gives him permission to leave. And as Nehemiah starts out, it's 1,000 miles back to his homeland in Jerusalem. And he has letters for safe passage that the king wrote, so that when he was venturing into other lands, that he would have these letters that would allow him safe passage. Not only did he have those letters of safe passage, the king sent him a full military army as well to protect him, so he would get back to Jerusalem safely. It's kind of like the story with Gerald. Gerald was thinking that something needs to be done. Someone needs to step up and do something. And then he thought, well, why not me? And it's the same thing with Nehemiah. Why not me? So he ventures out, and 3 days later, he arrives in Jerusalem. And as he gets in Jerusalem, as night falls, he takes along with him a few others, and they go out during the night, and they go out to survey the damage. And he goes out and he sees that he's not able to get the animal that he rides in, the donkey that he rides in. It's not able to get across the rocks because all the debris is everywhere, and it's not safe to travel. So he takes a few with him, and they do inventory, and they look to see what's needed to rebuild the wall, how much they're going to need, and estimating how long it would take, and the manpower and the tools and everything that they need to rebuild that wall. And he knows that he can't do this alone, and he's going to need some help. Sometimes we have thoughts and ideas of things that we can do, but we know that we can't do it by ourselves, and we need the help of others. And it's best when you have like-minded individuals that have the same ideas that you have. So he took along people with him that would survey the damage and would help him give a good report and know what they would need to finish this wall and what all they would need to move forward. But also he has to realize that he's in a land that he doesn't live in anymore. So there are leaders and there are city officials, and he has to go to them and he has to tell them, why he's there, what he's doing, what his plan is, and what needs to be done. And he realizes that rebuilding this wall is going to be a monumental task. It's not going to be easy by no stretch of the imagination. It's not going to be simple. He's not going to be able to snap his fingers or blink his eyes or click his heels and the wall is going to rebuild itself. And he knows it's not going to happen overnight, so he has to have a strategy in place. So even though it's an excellent idea, it's a wonderful idea, the people would feel safe if the wall was rebuilt. But you know that with everything that you try to succeed at, there's going to always be some resistance. So even though it was a good strategy to have to rebuild the wall, he's being met with some resistance. So no matter what you do, sometimes people just don't want to see you succeed. But you have to continue to press forward and keep pressing on because you know where your help comes from. Case in point, while we're speaking on the matter, there were some political leaders from the Peruvian provinces that didn't want Jerusalem to be strong and defend it due to the trade routes and economic advantages, because then that would shift over into the favor of Jerusalem. So, hence, their motivation for stopping Nehemiah was politically motivated, but it was also motivated by money as well. So, the trade routes there were going in different directions where it didn't benefit Jerusalem. But if they're fortified and they're strong and they're rebuilt, then they will have and gain the access of those funds, and they would be a stronger city. And others in the area didn't want that to happen because they were thinking about themselves. So as long as Jerusalem is weak and not able to defend themselves, it works in their favor. So everybody wasn't for this rebuilding to take place. Um, when you're building a house or constructing or building a business, or you're building a business, or even a church, you're more likely to be met with resistance. And I'm pretty sure that has happened, here and in other places that, everybody didn't agree with how things were going to be designed. Everybody didn't agree with the building. Everybody didn't agree with the design. You're going to be met with resistance, but you have to remember who you're doing it for. As long as you're not doing it for self, then nothing else matters, because God is the one that takes control of everything. And He's the one that gives us the ideas and the thoughts and the things that we need to do in order to move forward. So Nehemiah knew that someone had to do something because no one else was doing anything. The debris was everywhere. It was not safe to travel. And he knew that, I didn't have to come, but my heart is here, and I was comfortable where I was. But he also remembered that it wasn't about him. It was about God and God's people. Remember, he fasted and he prayed. He fasted and prayed, and God gave him the wherewithal and the will to press forward and go and help out for his people. So Nehemiah put his needs aside, and he did this for God. He could have made this about anything he could think of. He could have thought of anything. He could have put it on anything. It could have been political. It could have been for self. It could have been for anything. But he was standing on the promises of God. So he didn't forget that. Remember, he's a God-fearing man. He's a praying man. He didn't waver in his faith for God. And he knew that this was something that needed to be done because no one was doing anything. And then Nehemiah enlisted the help of those who would help. He had the resources and the manpower to reconstruct the walls to fortify the city. And as they went on and began to rebuild the wall, and things were changing and things were starting to look up, and you could see the construction, you could see that it was moving right along. Not only did he complete the mission, he did so in what was considered record time in 52 days. Can you imagine? They don't have forklifts. They don't have cement trucks. They don't have lifts. They don't have any motorized equipment. They had to use their hands and their back and their feet and their legs. And they were committed to completing this mission. And they done so in 52 days. And you can do anything that you put your mind to. We all can accomplish anything if we put our mind to it. We can do anything with God's hand upon us. We can do anything with God's grace and mercy. We can pull off anything. But as long as God is in it, then I know that it will succeed. And we have to allow God to lead us and guide us in the directions that He will have us to go to fulfill the promises and complete the mission, because we know that His word will not return to us void. We also have to remember that He didn't bring us this far to leave us. He didn't bring us out so we can say our work is done and we're finished, and hey, that's the end of the line. That's good. That's the end of the road. Hey, I'm done. I've done all I can do. Nope. That's most of the time just the beginning. So sometimes we need to step out of our comfort zone and do what God has called us to do, whatever it is. If it's serving food, if it's helping someone in the community, if it's purchasing groceries, if it's helping someone across the street, if whatever God has called you to do, whatever He needs you to do for His people, then that's what we need to do. We don't need to make any excuses about it, because lest we forget, we have to get out of our comfort areas. Everybody's not as fortunate as some of us. And we have to give God thanks for that. So Nehemiah knew that this was not something to be taken lightly. So no, lest we forget that God brought us this far, but the journey is not complete. We have to remember that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And since we're the few that have been chosen, let's continue to work in the vein of God. And as we continue, we find ourselves looking at a situation where we think someone needs help. We have to look to God for the answer, lest we forget. Nehemiah took it upon himself to leave his comfort zone, to go back to his homeland, to assist and do something that no one else was willing to do. He faced challenges, but he put God first. God guided his steps. He gave him everything that he needed to place in front of him to make sure that his mission was complete and that God got all the glory. So I pray that this lesson on today has been a blessing to someone listening and watching on today. We thank you for tuning in to Bethel Baptist Church and our virtual Sunday school. And I pray that God has blessed you this week. And let's remember that when someone needs us, it's our Christian duty that if we're able and that we can, we should go out and assist them and ask ourselves, well, who else can do it? Lest we forget. God bless you, and I hope you have a blessed week.